my hormones are holding me back and I can't do this and that. I'm like, okay, let me hear that. You, first of all, that is an intrinsic belief that like everybody in your, it might be factually true, 100%. Maybe everybody in your family has had a hard time. But if we keep telling ourselves that, we're basically standing in our own way and continuing with the limiting belief. Whereas if you change that and like, okay, I'm starting to take better care of myself. I'm becoming the person who enjoys eating healthy. It might not be or feel true in that moment, but the
Mm-hmm.
more you keep telling yourself those reaffirming like kind of like a mantra or reverse beliefs, the more you're going to step into that new identity and the more you're actually going to show up at that as that person because that's so important.
Emotionally unavailable.
Okay. Well, hi, it's very nice to meet you. I looked at your profile again this morning and it looks like you have real education in like health science and you are helping people basically have healthier bodies. Um, how did you get into that?
Well, Melissa, thank you so much for having me on. And honestly, I got into this because I guess of two or three different reasons. The first one being I've always just been interested in physiology and kind of enjoyed playing sports or being active in one way, shape, or form. Also, I grew up in Europe, and in Europe, generally speaking, the lifestyle is quite active. You often go hiking with your family and so on. So that was kind of my life growing up. But at the same time, I also went through struggles of like, hey, I want to be social. I want to eat out. I want to have pizza. I want to have a brownie. I want to travel and do all these fun things, which seem to lead to weight gain. And at the same time, I want to have a nice body that I'm happy in. And they always seemed kind of conflicting with each other, or I'd I'd try to like lose weight and then go on vacation, gain it back. And so I was always feeling kind of restricted in terms of food. And thankfully, I found a way or have been taught a way in terms of like how we can change body composition and create a body that we feel good in that also allows us to travel, to go to a birthday party without guilt and so on and still have a body that we love. And so I've kind of made it my mission to show other people that you don't have to choose between one or the other, because I know how frustrating it can be if you feel like you're so limited either in how you live your life or how you're feeling in your body, because you don't really know how to navigate either one of those. So it's really come from a personal place, as well as just also like growing up, being active and enjoying the body for what it is.
Yeah. So are you in the UK still or are you in America now?
No, so
Or
I grew up in Germany and I did one high school exchange year kind of in the US and then I actually went back to Germany, started my university degree there, but transferred over to New Zealand where I lived for 10
oh,
years from 2009 to 2019, and for the last 6 years I have been nomading around the globe, lived in Thailand, Bali, Mexico, Dubai, and I'm currently in Bolivia, so in South America. Similar time zone to you, but I am
oh my
not
gosh.
geographically necessarily near.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that still lends itself to what I was going to ask. Then you have seen a lot of cultural differences in terms of how people gather. So you're
Yes.
saying in Germany, it was very common for the time that you spend with people that you love to be outdoors, to be active.
hmm
And can you share a little bit about the other places that you've been and what the time together looked like?
Yeah, absolutely. I love that question because there really are big differences, not just in the sense of how we come together, but yeah, of course, what role food plays within that. So
Yeah.
in Europe, oftentimes, and I mean, these are generalizations, but I will just tell you what I've seen. Generally speaking, I think like during the day, food doesn't play as big of a role quite often. It's kind of like more a small little, you would almost call it snack for breakfast or like lunch, is kind of not on the go, but it doesn't play a big role. But then often in the evenings or Sunday lunch or whatever, the whole family might come together and it's still not that much, even though food plays a big role in the sense of, hey, let's prepare something wonderful. Let's make sure it's homemade or it's, of good quality. It still feels like it's more about the catching up, about the talk, about "Hey, let's have starters, and then an hour passes and you just chat and the kids play and whatever. And then the main might come out and you kind of share. It's more like family style. And then another hour or two go by and you have a little bit of dessert. But it's not like the main thing where it's just like, we're going to go out for dinner and then you shove it all in and half an hour
Yeah.
later you leave. So don't get me wrong, like I actually love the food in the States. Oftentimes people just
Don't
say,
we all,
"No."
sister? It's good. It's
I
good.
mean, sometimes globally speaking, people are like, "Oh, well, it's just fast food. It's not good quality." I think it really depends on where you look,
Oh,
who
sure.
or where you
Yeah.
go to there, because there's like some of the best steak I've ever had was in the Midwest. West. Some of the best potatoes I've ever had were like somewhere in the US as well, or like other things as well. So there really is good quality food. But in terms of like the speed of how we eat, one thing I couldn't get my head around at first, and I'm still having issues with sometimes, that you're eating and the waiter might already bring you the check while you might not even have started eating basically, and they're bringing you the check. And like I understand logically, A, they want to have a fast turnover because they want their tables to be filled so that they get more tips. And B, people don't necessarily linger for that long. But in Europe, that would be unheard of. That would be you would feel like they are kicking you out and they don't want you to be in there. Whereas like in many European places, the owner, they want you to stay for as long as you like or like long, long, long
Wow.
because they make more money with like the beverages and the drinks and they want you to feel at home and like take your time, everything is slower, that sort of thing. So if you were brought the
Wow.
check while you're still eating, yeah, I was working in hospitality quite a bit when I was in high school and even later then as well. And it was always like a rule: the person, like if they still had a little bit on their plate, or unless they, you have to ask, wait for them to ask for the check, you would never just bring them the check. So, I mean,
Oh my
that's one
gosh, that's
thing.
crazy to me. Cause like,
Yeah.
it is etiquette here to like get your ass up off that table,
Yep. Yep. Yep.
because you know that the waiter doesn't want you sitting there too long. And it really like I'm just dying laughing because I will ask for the check when my food is delivered
Yeah.
so that when we're done eating, we go. Because
Exactly.
if not, then you're waiting sometimes forever for the check and like what, we're just gonna sit here and talk? Like
Yeah. No. I mean, I
you
can
know?
totally see
But I
both
like the
points.
other way better. I wish we were more like centered around the activity instead of the food. You know what I mean?
Well, absolutely. I do I totally get both points of view. I'm not saying one is right and one is wrong, but when it
Yeah,
comes
but it's
to
different.
it's different, and when it comes to mindful eating and just slowing down, because
Mhm.
honestly, Melissa, one of the main things that I work on with people is often just like less multitasking, more single tasking. We're all like,
Yeah.
we're eating, and while you have something on your fork, you might not even have put it on in your mouth, and you're already thinking about the next bite while you're scrolling on the phone and maybe even driving at the same time, or hopefully not all these three things at the same time, but you know
Yeah.
so multitasking to the max, and we're not giving our bodies the chance to actually register that it's supposed to digest, it's supposed to get fuller, and your satiety is supposed to set in. So simply by slowing down more and by being more mindful when we're eating, maybe putting down your fork between bites, maybe taking a couple of deep breaths before you even start eating to get out of that doing sympathetic nervous system drive and into your rest and digest nervous
Yeah.
system drive is often like super, super helpful. And of course, with that, taking a few bites, having a nice chat, taking a few bites, having a nice chat instead of just thinking we're just going there for the food. Once the food is done, we're leaving. But yeah, of
Right.
course, with the American lifestyle, everything being faster, and you're like, I need to get back to my next tasks and so on. It makes sense. Again, I'm not blaming anybody here. And another interesting observation I have had, especially now in Latin America as well, is that quite often here lunch is actually the big meal, which again, like debatable whether that's good or bad for the people here. For instance, it means breakfast is very light, very small, again, more like a snack type of thing, and dinner is very light. So they might not struggle as much with going to bed feeling really heavy or things like that. I don't know if I personally would like to have a huge lunch after which I probably would want to take a nap instead of
Yeah, me too.
continuing to
Yeah.
so, like, how does that work practically speaking? But for them, it really, like, lunch is the big thing. Often you go with, business people or with your work colleagues as well. But they always take, like, a full hour, maybe more, to just sit down, have a proper meal, and then instead of eating by the desk or so, which many of us are sometimes inclined to do also. So just some interesting observations, but more so, I mean, food-wise, unfortunately or fortunately, globalization, yes, has led to also even here things like they don't call it DoorDash, but it does exist, like the delivery services and all
Mhm.
this. When I was growing up in Germany, 20 years ago or whatever, we went out for food maybe once a week, and there was no drive-throughs, there was nothing like that. It was almost only home-cooked meals, and, like, when we went out for food, it was, like, a big thing. You put on some nice clothes, and you, like, really appreciated that your parents were paying for that. It's not like where some people almost only order their food nowadays and
Mhm.
hardly ever, cook. So I do think that that is a little bit unfortunate, and again, one of the recommendations I often give people if they want to lose weight is really like start preparing a few more of your meals at home. It doesn't need to mean that you need to eat a salad for every single meal, but even cooking up some throwing some chicken in the crock pot, cooking up some microwave rice and micro vegetables, that's often better and faster all in all than going through the drive-through all the time, just because restaurants, they tend to always use more oils,
Mhm.
more additives like sugars and whatever in all their sauces to make it tastier, obviously, so that we keep coming back there.
Mhm.
um, but yeah, beyond the food point, also just in terms of lifestyle, it really is, especially also here in Latin America or in the Asian countries, more active. All in all, like you walk to more places. Of course, it's also a little bit more strenuous. You carry your groceries around. Nothing like grocery delivery and all these things. So even through that, of course, they have a higher energy expenditure, and we often underestimate how much that even just the day-to-day activities make up in our energy expenditure. Sometimes we think it's just the calories we burn in the gym that matter, but it's really like even gesturing, even walking up the stairs, parking further away and walking to places plays a big role. And I'll give you an example. I went to the States maybe a year ago for to visit a friend. One of my best friends, she lives in Texas, and I went to the gym in the morning. I wanted to go to the Starbucks across the road to meet her for breakfast, and it was like literally across the road. I had driven to the gym, and I wanted to walk to the Starbucks because it was like literally it's like 100
Yeah.
yards. I don't need to drive over there. And I couldn't. Like, there was no sidewalk to walk over there. I had to take the car and, like, do a huge loop. It was, like, little 7-minute drive to get to the Starbucks that I was able to see on the other side of the road, and I was like, "That is so sad," because even if someone wants to walk more, the infrastructure, how the cities are set up, the urbanizations, have not
Mhm.
made it easy for people. So it's like the food industry is making it harder because it's making food so highly palatable. Of course, things like DoorDash and so on just make it sound like this is the best way to go about it. And then on top of all the sedentary lifestyle that we have to lead for jobs or and so on, we
Yeah.
can't even walk to places if we wanted to. And yeah, that really I felt for everybody who quote unquote suffers from that, because it's not making it easy. I can absolutely appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't have a lot of walkable cities. I mean, there are some up north, but like in general, it's just not the thing. And it is very much set up for automobiles. I mean, it's not just
Yes.
not walkable, it's like
Yes.
impossible. Like you said, I can picture exactly what you're talking about. Like how the roads are. I mean, it's kind of hard to drive there too.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
So what I think what we know about anybody struggling with their weight is that there's far more a
Mm.
psychological component than a physical one.
Yes.
Like what is the work that you do to help to address that?
Yeah, that is really such a good point. And most of the time, people are not that aware how deep it goes. Like they know I want to change something. Sometimes they even like openly first thing say like I know I stress eat or I've never been comfortable in my body and so on. But just how deep it really goes and how far back is it's hard to peel back the layers of that onion on your own. So for instance, it starts with what we see in our parents. Most of the time it's the mom, especially for women, of course. Like how does she talk about food? How does she treat food herself? How does she talk to you about food? So not just what she's serving you, but like for example, I remember when I was growing up, my mom pretty much every year, probably January or so, I don't remember, but every year she put herself through like a 6 week nothing but cabbage soup diet.
Yeah.
Nothing but that. No, I saw that, and for me, it was just perfectly normal to assume, okay, every holiday that comes around or every Christmas and so on, I'm gonna put on 10 to 15 pounds because that's what everybody does, or maybe more. And then at the beginning of the year, I have to do something extreme. It doesn't work if it's not something extreme like that. That was like my perception of this is how you lose weight. To be on a, I don't know, 800-calorie diet for a few weeks and starving yourself
Yeah.
miserably.
Yeah.
Fortunately, like I have to say I was lucky in the sense that my mom never said like, "Oh, Lisa, you're getting too big," or, "Watch what you're eating because it's gonna go on your hips." But the things that I have heard from clients, how sometimes they have observed their mom talk to their own bodies and like, "Oh, I'm getting too fat. I'm not worthy of this anymore. I can't go to that social event because I don't want to go to that class reunion because I look fat," or like just the verbiage that we use, or that
Mhm.
sometimes our parents talk to us in the sense of you're getting too big. This is you need to do something about that. Let's put you on a diet even though you're 13 years old, and that
Yeah.
hard, right? But we have to go, sometimes we have to go back that far. And then, of course, with that, often it's things like, how have you been, quote unquote, taught to deal with stress or to celebrate things, for example. Unfortunately, one of the most common ways nowadays that we're getting rewarded for stuff or getting deprived of love even is with food. It's like, oh no,
Mhm.
you haven't done your homework, you're not getting any ice cream. Or, oh, you've been a really good girl, you got an
Right.
A, we're gonna go and get you ice cream. And like, there's nothing wrong with ice cream, and there's also nothing wrong with using that as a reward from time to time. But if that's the only thing that you associate with as a reward, that no wonder that when you feel like you've had a hard day, or you've had an argument with your boss, you come
Mhm.
home and you want ice cream because that's been
Yep.
ingrained in you. You have never been taught like, okay, let's talk about it, or maybe call a friend and bitch about your boss. That's a better strategy
Mhm.
than just going straight to the freezer. Or you got that promotion at work. Maybe you want to go and sign up for that yoga retreat that you've been wanting to do for so long, instead of just only celebrating with food. Like, yes, food can and should be part of celebrations, but it should not be the only reward system that you know.
Yeah.
It really, honestly, Melissa, it goes so deep, and often it starts with the little things that we can detect ourselves, or me as a coach, for example, even just in a first strategy call. Let's say someone talks to me and they're like, I've never been able to keep the weight off. Everybody in my family has a hard time losing weight. I've just really hated all the diets that I've put myself on in the past. My hormones are holding me back, and I can't do this and that. I'm like, okay, let me hear that. You, first of all, that is an intrinsic belief that like everybody in your it might be factually true 100%, and maybe everybody in your family has had a hard time losing weight, but if we keep telling ourselves that, we're basically standing in our own way and continuing with the limiting belief of like, I can never, no matter what happens, I can never lose weight because it's a fact that it doesn't work for my family. Whereas if you change that and like, okay, I'm starting to take better care of myself. I'm becoming the person who enjoys eating healthy. It might not be or feel true in that moment, but the
Mhm.
more you keep telling yourself those reaffirming like kind of like a mantra or reverse beliefs, the more you're going to step into that new identity, and the more you're actually going to show up at that as that person, because that's so important. No change in weight loss or otherwise is going to stick if you try to drag your old identity along with you. You need to cut certain parts out. That is just, it's hard, but it's a fact, and that might mean maybe no longer binge drinking with the people that you thought were your friends but are not supporting your health endeavors, or maybe cutting down the daily wine and just making it once a week, and really looking at it as something special as opposed to just a coping mechanism that you always resort to. So we really have to look at like, who am I wanting to become and what kind of habits does that person have, as opposed to just saying I want to lose 20 pounds. Full stop. Like,
Mhm.
okay. And even
Yeah.
even there, like, what's so special about the 20 pound, or how do you think you're gonna feel differently when you get to the 20 pounds? Is that because the last time you were really happy, you were 20 pounds lighter? Or what would you say if someone gave you your dream body, and that dream body was actually 10 pounds heavier than you think you have in your mind? Like, like sometimes there's something specific about why we're attaching value or something, or like a specific goal to a certain number.
Oh, that's so true. Yeah, as you're speaking, I'm like guilty because, like, well, man, I have some really like, in the 80s, it wasn't just allowed, it was really encouraged to give your children eating disorders.
Oh, yeah.
And I was raised by a grandma who was literally so tiny. Like, she had a great metabolism, but she also was very high strung and had a ton of anxiety. And so she was one of those people that it really affected her appetite. That's what it boiled down to. And she smoked endless amounts of non-filtered cigarettes and drank coffee all day. So, yeah, she didn't like to eat that much, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, she didn't understand our love of food,
Mhm.
but she kinda did, but she didn't understand the ability to eat at the quantity that we could. So, there was that, but, she would do things like, um, as I got older, I mean, she said stuff about, like, weight, like, when I got stretch marks at puberty, I remember driving in the car and her looking over and being like, "You have stretch marks." And just, like, the shame over my entire, like, being because I didn't even know what that was, and I was like, "What is that?" And then how do you think I responded when girls at school noticed them and said so? I was like, "No, I was born with that. I don't know what that is." It was awful. And then, like, as I got older, I was always on a diet. And so she'd be like, because if I wasn't on a diet, she would nonstop police what I was eating. When I was visiting her, she'd be like, "Do you really need that cookie?"
Mm.
And then when I was on a diet, if I didn't accept whatever treat she had there, because God knows she always had it around because she could eat one and not 100. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
she'd be like, "You can have just one cookie." And I'm like, "Grandma, why are you always trying to sabotage my efforts? Like,
Mhm.
either you're going to like support the fact that I'm trying to lose weight or shut up." And so then when I had kids, that oldest one, excuse me, I'm so sorry. I really had not made any sort of peace with my body when I had him. And so I never talked about weight, or well, I might have talked badly about myself. I don't remember, but I do know when he got to where he wasn't feeling great about himself in like high school and wanted to start a diet, I didn't like discourage that. Like
Mhm.
I was like, okay, like totally different now. Like where my daughter, who's like 11 years younger than him, she's 11 now. I've never once said a single bad thing about myself,
Mm.
like my physical stuff around her. I don't allow anybody in this house to even like call somebody else fat. Like it's not a word in anyone in the vocabulary. Y'all can say it if she's not around, but like we do not talk about it at all. And we don't comment on other people's bodies at all. Like nothing, not their size, not the fact that they are missing an arm, nothing. I mean, we do not
No,
comment on bodies. And
I
when
I think
she
that's
was little,
amazing.
she asked me about it, and I'm like, "Well," because she was in the shower with me, like, she's probably like 3, and she's like, "You have a big belly." And I just went through like, yeah, some people have this size belly, like small, medium, large, like our bodies come in all shapes and sizes, whatever, because she's gonna figure all this shit out for herself. You know what I mean? She gonna get the beauty standards thrown at her trust. I mean, my hope is that that evolves. But I mean, I have said things like, as she's getting older and about to go through puberty, I mean, a very real thing in our family is that I had gestational diabetes with all 3 of the children, and that automatically puts them at an increased risk for type 2 diabetes, as well as a paternal grandma put me at risk because she had type 2 diabetes, so, like, it runs on my dad's side of the family. Okay, no worries, but, like, I have to educate you on that without making
Judge.
any food too bad or whatever, like, one day I was like, "We probably do need to eat a little less sugar because blah, blah, blah." You know what I mean? But that was the only time I said it. Like, I'm just kinda slowly dropping it into the conversation so that I don't want her to think anything is bad, and she's not
I
bad. If you get type 2 diabetes, you're not bad, like, like, above all, I don't want shame to be the motivator, you
That is
know?
it. No, I love everything that you were saying, and, again, like, most people, I'm first of all, I'm not perfect in any way either, but, I think most people, they do just do what they think is right in the time. I'm sure that your grandma did as well, but I
Yeah.
do hope that we're shedding more and more light onto, like, hey, what how we talk about things affects even if they're toddlers, like, literally, it sinks in, so
Mhm.
we have to be careful, and I love what you said there at the end about not fear-mongering, not making anything bad or good, because for me, truly, I really, really want people to learn to enjoy things in moderation and without guilt, so that you can get to a place where you're like, "No, I'm consciously choosing this brownie, it looks amazing," not because I'm taking over from my animal instincts and I just like, "I need to
Mhm.
have this," and afterwards I'm beating myself up for hours, but no, because I'm like, yeah, I've considered I want to eat that. I've had plenty of vegetables and protein today or over the course of the last 2 days, and I'm going to eat that because I know it's going to be delicious, and I can just move on from that. I don't need to have the entire like, another 3 brownies after that and the tub of ice cream. I'm just gonna enjoy that, and that is it. And, like, I really, really want people to understand that there's, like, no quote, unquote, "good or bad things," of course, unless you're allergic to something, but
Sure.
that there are things that are more nutritious, we should have more of, and others that we maybe should limit and just at least not make it habitual so that we're all like, if you have a brownie twice a day, that's something we do need to talk about because, it's gonna cut from some other healthier calories. But yeah, I think it's really, really, great how you are so conscious about that with your family and how you're just talking about it and making sure that it's coming from a place of love and because they want to change themselves and not because they feel unworthy perhaps or because they feel like they need to squeeze themselves in some sort of ideal even though they're actually feeling good in their body and perfectly healthy. So yeah, it's very important what motivation we bring to the table.
Well, I got into a little bit of a thing on Facebook once with a mom friend because when I was a school counselor, I did lunch duty with the children. And there was one girl in particular who then started roping in another girl into doing things like this. They were in first grade, 6 years old, reading the calories on the back of their food. Okay. And this girl goes, "Oh, this has 200 calories in it." And it was like nothing. I mean, first of all, 200 calories is nothing. And so I was like, first of all, that's not that much. And second of all, calories just means the amount of energy it's going to give you.
Yes.
So blah, blah, blah. And they're like, well, my mom said, and they had a doctor who told them they were going to die if they didn't, blah, 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 blah. Some of that was cultural, but still, I was like, okay, I cannot. So I posted
Yeah.
a picture, or no, I posted on Facebook that day and I said, I kind of recounted like the fact that they had made such a big deal about calories. And then I said, they're listening, mamas, something like that.
Yeah.
And so this mom who finds herself to be in the fitness space and the, kind of weight loss space was like, well, and I know that she's really into tracking macros, and she was teaching her daughter all about weighing the food and macros and how, balance, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, that's not teaching them balance. You're teaching them fucking perfectionism when you're weighing your food. You're teaching them
Well,
a lot of bad shit when you're teaching them to weigh their food. You shouldn't have a fucking food scale in your house if you have children. That's my belief. You
yeah.
you should not. You should not. And I don't care what anyone says about that, because your child's not learning to balance their eating when you're measuring your food. You're telling her you have to be perfect and you have to fit and you have to all of these things. And so
Yeah,
I
that's
lovingly responded that I disagreed, but still.
I think that's such a good point, and what that unfortunately is taking away from some of these kids later on, women or people in general, uh, is how to listen to actually their own body. Like,
Yes.
when are you actually full? When are you actually hungry? And just making choices more from what do I feel like eating? Yes, of course, we cannot always eat intuitively with all the modern day foods around because again, they're designed for us to want to overeat them.
They're
But
very
generally
addictive,
speaking,
yes.
like when you should also not encourage you, like, I don't know about you, but I grew up with the whole saying of like you need to eat everything that's on your plate. Otherwise, like my mom was like,
Right.
it's gonna be bad tomorrow.
Yeah.
Or think of the starving kids in Africa. And like I get the point. I also hate being wasteful when it comes to food and all these things. But me shoving in food, even though I'm no longer hungry, yeah, and
Mhm.
just because of someone else starving many, many, many miles away is not serving anybody. So rather getting in the habit of putting less on the plate and finishing when you're done or when you're actually satiated, I think that's so important. Because that is definitely the other extreme that I do see as well. People that just diet and diet and diet and diet, that cannot listen to their bodies anymore. And like that even transfers over into things like the whole sleep tracker things. I don't know about
Yeah.
you. I actually have used an Aura ring for a little while, more out of curiosity and because I had some sleep issues after working as a police officer for a few years, and it was basically destroying my circadian rhythm. And so I wanted to make sure I'm going through all the sleep stages and so on. And there's a lot of value to data, to all these trackers, whether it comes to down to, tracking your steps from time to time or seeing again like your sleep or period predictions, whatever else these things can do these days. But after I had it on for a year, I was like, this was enough. And sometimes I actually even felt like I woke up and I had a lot of energy. And I looked at the sleep tracker thing later on, and it told me, like, you need to rest today because your recovery
Yeah.
like is like 40% or whatever. I'm like, but I feel amazing. This is dumb. And then other days
Yes.
would like, today is a day for a PR. And I was feeling like crap. And I'm like, yeah, that doesn't make any sense anymore.
Yeah,
Thanks.
you're like,
But I'm putting
"Mm."
that away. I'm listening to my own intuition, and yeah, there are so many people that over rely on that data and ignore
Yes, I
their own
agree with
body, and we do
you.
need to go back to, like, listening again to our bodies in regards to when to push hard, when to take a rest, and
Mhm.
learn to differentiate between, "I'm not motivated today, but I'm still going, I'm showing up no matter what," because, that also needs to be learned, or days where you're like, I really slept crappy. I have a ton of work to do at the moment. I'm so stressed out. I'm probably
And
better
it would
off.
do more harm than good to go at that
Exactly.
point.
I'm
Yeah.
better off going for a walk with the dog 10 minutes, just not thinking about anything, taking a few deep breaths,
Mhm.
and then going about my day and not forcing to go to the gym or forcing myself to, starve just because I think I need to. So I think that's important for people to learn to connect with their bodies again.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't want to harp on macros, but that was the thing that I was really seeing a lot of back when I still followed fitness people was like people trying to shove in protein at the end of the day when they were full. I don't know how you feel about this, but in human design, they kind of talk to you about how your specific design should eat best for like digestion and stuff. And one of the things that I saw really confirmed my intuition about it. So, like, one thing for me is like, I can't eat in chaos. And
Mhm.
I started to notice, like if my daughter who's 11, if she's having one of those days where she's just having a lot of feelings about stuff and she's doing that while I'm eating, I cannot eat. Like I will put it down because I'm like, this doesn't feel good. Like this is going to get stuck because I do have a lot of digestive issues. I've like had them forever. Um, and I just like had a round of antibiotics not that long ago, so I'm just wrecked. I've got to go like get all the things for my gut. But for now, I'm struggling and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I can feel." And like I'm supposed to have like, mood lighting even. And really for me, more like during the day just like picking at food that's like, like something that I've been craving because I've been I've been doing a lot of trying to start with programming in the way that I view food and whatever because my A1C is higher. So like I have to lose weight for that. Otherwise I probably wouldn't care, but it is what it is, so I have to. But um so something that I crave all the time but have not picked up yet, but I crave it all the time from talking to myself about how good it's going to be is like the what kind of peppers are those? They're just like regular peppers, the multicolored ones, like they've got
Oh, yeah,
red,
yeah,
they've got green, whatever. They're
yeah,
not bell, but they're
yeah,
they look
yeah,
like jalapeno, but they're colored.
yes.
That with cream cheese and everything
Mm.
bagel
Yeah.
seasoning on it. I saw somebody make that and I was like, I love that. Never eaten it in my life. But in my mind, that is the best thing I've ever eaten. So
That
like I
sounds
do eat
amazing.
little things like that, but I'm just trying to what I decided was so far I'm not cutting anything out. I'm adding in because
Oh, I
I
love
do want to love my body with food
that.
too. Like I've been on this whole healing thing emotionally and I want to feed myself the things that make me feel the best. But I will do this thing where I get busy, don't eat, then I'm hungry, and then, and also I love dopamine. So I'm gonna eat all the sugar, you know what I mean?
I
But
mean,
so I've just been adding in vegetables. Like I do like vegetables. I really do. So I'll make like a little English muffin sandwich and I make sure to put the spinach leaves on there. Like that's what I've been doing is adding
I
in
think
fruits
that's
and
awesome.
vegetables.
Honestly, I think that's where most people should start off with thinking of, okay, what should I have more of? How can I get
Mhm.
more sleep? How can I get more hydration? How can I get more fiber through vegetables and fruit? How can I get more whole food protein? Because protein is good, but not to the extent of what you were
Right,
talking.
right.
And I'm curious, are you a projector or what's your human design profile?
I am a generator.
Oh, okay, right. I did not know that that was kind of associated with the snacking aspect, or what other tell me what other things in terms of food are associated with generators.
I don't know a ton, but that's the part I remembered because I
Okay,
was like,
yeah.
I knew it. I don't remember why. I just was like, I knew it. It was mostly just the mood lighting and
Yes.
calm and
Okay,
not too much at at my own leisure to be
yeah.
like,
Yeah.
oh, like girl dinner kind
Yeah.
of is
Yeah, yeah.
what
Okay,
is best
gotcha.
for me. And like
Gotcha.
honest to God, that's when I feel the best too. When I don't
Very
do a
interesting.
meal
Yeah.
and I do snacks like that are healthy, that I
Mhm.
feel the very best because
Okay.
it's easy for me to just go from
Yeah.
food,
Yeah, and
and
then
so
you're in a food coma. No, that makes a lot of
yes.
sense. So I'm a projector, and that's a kind of
Okay.
why, because for me too, it is important to feel relaxed when I'm eating, and like it's not like I have to have my entire apartment in order before I can eat, but I definitely need to like calm down a little bit, have
Yes.
even like to the point of like noise and so on. If there's too much going,
Yeah.
it doesn't work that well. And I like a lot of warmer foods, like calming foods, and also warmer spices like or things like cinnamon and so on. So or oatmeal
Mm.
soups that is really really soothing to me and for my root chakra. And so like I love that you brought up human design because I do think it can tell us so much about well
Yeah.
obviously our own personality, but even things like your sleep patterns or when you're most energized to go to the gym or work out or whatever, and of course, how often or how big our meals.
What type?
And yeah,
Yeah.
right. So very interesting.
Yeah, I'm learning more, but I don't know like a ton,
Yeah.
but
Well, same here.
well, but I'm also into astrology,
Mhm.
so I have a Virgo stellium, so I can get real into the numbers of things,
Okay. Yeah.
and learning to balance that is really important for me because like I did back when I still hated myself, I did keto and it turned into a full-blown eating disorder
Yeah.
because once I started with intermittent fasting, that was a gateway to not eating for me
Mhm.
because if I decide I'm gonna do something, it's all or nothing. And so when I did intermittent fasting, if my window closed and I hadn't gotten a chance to eat that day, I didn't eat that day.
Well.
That
Well.
period.
Yeah.
Or if I've only eaten a boiled egg and the window closed, I mean,
Well.
and I had a large window, it was 12 to 8, but still, like, if it closed, that was it, you don't get to eat. And I was working as a teacher at the time.
Wow.
And so there was a lot of times I'm just skipping through, like, trying to get stuff done, and then I get home late and I don't get to eat, you know?
Yeah. That's
So it was
yes.
bad.
That's exactly why these extreme approaches, that is what I want to steer people away from. Again, because I have been there too. Like I did all kinds of low carb, high fat,
Mhm.
whatever, paleo. And to your point, like it is so restrictive and disconnecting us from our actual like bodies and listening to ourselves because of specific times and rules that we're placing upon ourselves. So for example, I at first my first university professor, she was really old school and advocated for really low fat. So I started buying all these low fat products and blah blah blah. Lost a
Mhm.
little bit of weight, but yeah, okay. So went on to the next professor. She was super low carb, pro low.
No!
Oh, but I didn't just switch from one to the other. I layered it on top. So I basically had cut out all the fats and then I cut out all the carbs and I pretty much was left with, vegetables and protein. And that, of course, is super, super restrictive because at the time I was also starting CrossFit and extreme things like this.
Oh,
And so
no,
I
you
started
needed
having these
carbs.
binge weekends because I thought, okay, I need to make up somewhere and like literally started food planning Monday through Thursday of what I was going to treat myself with. And then developing this all or nothing mindset where you're
Yes.
just like going through that cycle. And to my earlier point of enjoying travels, I like vividly remember standing in a food court in Thailand on my honeymoon and we had just done like a hard workout, and I was looking around. We were wanting to get breakfast, and I started crying on my honeymoon in a beautiful country with amazing food. Started crying because I
Yeah.
was like, "There's nothing I can eat. This place is only has deep fried things. This place has rice. I can't eat rice because it's carbs. This place has sugar on their whatever." I was like, "I can't eat anything," and it was just like, "What the hell are you doing, Lisa? You're supposed to enjoy your time here. You've just worked out. That
Yeah.
these are good foods. You don't even need to like work for your calories, but even if you like, it was insane. And in that moment, I was like, I need to change something about the way I'm eating. This is not a way to live life, and it's not healthy for my body either, or my mind, of course. So, yeah,
Mhm.
I know that there are many people that have felt something perhaps similar, maybe not in Thailand, but in similar scenarios where they're just like, I know what I'm doing is not right, but I'm standing my own way because I've placed all these food rules upon myself. Can't have carbs, cannot eat after 8 o'clock, can't eat before 12, even though I'm hungry at 11:30. I need to torture myself
Yeah.
to 12 o'clock. Like I also tried intermittent fasting at some point, and I had hormone issues at the time, actually. I was trying to get my cycle back after years and years on the pill, a different story. But
Mhm.
anyway, I wanted to get my cycle back, and what did I do nonetheless? I tried intermittent fasting because at that time it was like the bee's knees and everybody had to do intermittent fasting for health purposes. Now we know that that's not necessarily the case, but anyway, so I would like I'm someone I wake up and normally I'm hungry and I'm like excited for breakfast. I'm excited for food because there are people that truly they wake up and they don't mind waiting to eat a little bit. That's absolutely fine
Yeah.
story. But I wasn't one of them and I just thought, okay, I need to force myself to get to I think for me my time was like 11 and I started getting lightheaded and shaky and whatnot and actually it overall it drove my cortisol, my stress levels up. It made my cycle that was at that time not that great or regular anyway made it even worse and so it's just like yeah I there's something not right with
Yeah.
me and I mean the thing is that especially in those earlier years where intermittent fasting was so hyped we didn't really notice that most of the research done on it was done in men that are like 20 to 30 years old so healthy and
Mhm.
they don't have any testosterone issues or high stress lifestyle. They don't work 60 hours a week and have 3 kids and whatever. And then throwing out things like, oh, you need to do that for, to decrease your risk of cancer and so on. It's just absolutely bonkers. So I think when it comes to these trends and fads, it's so easy to want to jump on board because it seems like the solution to your issue, perhaps. But I just nowadays want people to see that unfortunately, when it comes to becoming healthier, unfortunately or fortunately, um, it is as quote unquote simple, not easy, but simple as going back to the basics, as eating more whole foods, a little bit less processed, and the processed ones in moderation, as
Mhm.
going to sleep earlier, as moving your body more, as hydrating more. It is not a secret formula. It's not a supplement. It's not you need to go vegan. It's not being carnivore or a keto. It really is the basics, but unfortunately, we're drawn to the sexy solution that sounds like it's the salvation.
Yeah, I mean, well, because let's be honest, you'll lose weight if you do those
Yeah,
things. You will.
yeah.
If that's your goal, you're going to, but we're talking about having a healthier body. Like that's because I did a lot of damage to myself doing that. I got very skinny. And I didn't like myself any more than I had before, and
Mhm.
I did a lot of damage to myself.
All these things, and of course, on top of that, like, the for me, the most important part is always sustainability as well. Like,
Mhm.
how long do you want to, and can you keep this up? Because for most people or many people, when they think, "I'm going on a diet," it's like a 6-week thing, like my mom's cabbage diet. I'm sure she started it
Yes,
every single
yeah.
time thinking, "I'm only doing this for 6 weeks, and after that, I'm just gonna go back to my usual eating habits." And that's exactly why we yo-yo back all the time when we're like, "Oh, I'm gonna go keto for 6 weeks." And then when you start introducing carbs again, your body doesn't really know how to deal with them that well anymore.
Mhm.
Or when you go keto and then it's your date night and your partner wants to go for pizza, like what do you do, right? So that's kind of the issue. So most of the time when people lose weight, because most people are actually pretty good at losing weight, as you mentioned,
Yeah.
it's the hard part keeping it off. And either they just go back to their previous eating habits and gain the weight back or whatever, because of course that's what got them there in the first place. Or they're
Mhm.
so terrified of adding a little bit more calories again that they just stay at that low calorie level, quote unquote damaging their metabolism or just not doing their metabolism any good by keeping the calories so low. And on top of that, kind of putting the hormonal health in danger and so on too. So what we really want to do at the end of a dieting phase is we always, always, always want to make sure, because of course, in order to lose weight, we need to eat less than what our body needs to or is burning. So at the end of a dieting phase or weight loss phase, we want to make sure we're bringing up that food quality or quantity slowly and gradually again so that we're at least consuming the same amount that our body is burning in a gradual way. We don't just from one day to another, from one day where you're like, eating way less, adding another whole meal or so. No, that's as gradual as I'm going to double the amount of my yogurt in my breakfast and maybe having twice as many potatoes in my dinner. And then maybe 2 weeks later, you're like, okay, still feeling great, still looking the same as I did in my weight loss phase. Now I'm going to add a little bit more fruit in the afternoon, and I might actually treat myself to another piece of chocolate in my post dinner dessert or so, right? So just gradually giving your body the chance, your metabolism the chance to adapt to a little bit more energy. I often refer to it as in like when you go in a weight loss phase, you it's like taking your laptop off of the power charge, the plug-in. And at first everything functions well, you're losing weight and so on, but after a while it might go into like a little bit of a dimmer setting. It might stop doing all the backup processes and so on. And that's what happens to your metabolism after a few weeks of trying to lose weight also. It's not running quite as optimally anymore. You might also feel a little bit lower in energy, maybe a little bit more agitated, don't have as much energy in the gym. So that's kind of when we at some point then want to end our weight loss phase, and you plug
Mhm.
the power plug back in. That's kind of like you adding a little bit more food, and gradually the setting becomes brighter. Gradually, all the backup processes run again, and that's your metabolism and hormones functioning optimally again. So really, really important that we do that, and that we don't just stay in that low calorie intake, because in the long run, you're really not doing your body any good with that.
Very good. Yeah. Well, as we wrap up, where can people find you?
Well, Melissa, thank you so much for having me. I honestly have enjoyed this conversation. I hope that
Me too.
people have learned a thing or two, or maybe just found it interesting. And if you're listening to this and you want to get in touch, you can find me on my business name. It's Nutrition Coaching and Life. That's the name on Instagram. I have a website with the same name, LinkedIn, YouTube, anything like that. I also have a podcast. It's the Nutrition and Life podcast. And yeah, if you're listening to this and you enjoyed it, or you have any questions, just let me know and say, hey, I listened to you and Melissa, and I have some critique or questions. Anything is welcome. But yeah, I really also admire the work that you're doing, and just opening up and speaking honestly and having wonderful guests on your podcast. So thank you for having me on.
Well, thank you. Okay, I'm gonna stop, but if you will hang out for 1 sec.
Yeah, I know it takes
Thanks for coming to Emotionally Unavailable. If you haven't already, like, subscribe, and share.